Good morning. So, wife's taken her bike up to Billy's for its MOT. And it's Billy's in Pulborough. She's not ridden her bike for about a year and a half. So let's see how she gets on. It's a Ducati 620 SE, I think, or SI. As I said before, I've always had Ducatis since 1998, I think my first Ducati was, and currently I don't have any in my name. Visor's a bit cloudy. It's busy this morning. So in this chat I thought I'll do a brief little talk about the reasons why I ride predominantly as my day bikes classics. And the classics I've ridden as day bikes include everything from Honda C90s. I've had a couple of those. Oh, we got a lot of traffic going on up there. Yeah, C90s. What else have we had? Armstrongs, the MT500s, which is a bitch of a bike, and it's a bitch of a bike because it's a single cylinder 500cc left hand kickstart. Nice little R8, 310. Well, I've got to remember I've got panniers on. Right, back to it. Classic bikes. So what is it with me and classic bikes? Well, I find them easier to service and repair myself, which is obviously beneficial for servicing. It means that I have the ability to wicked little bars. Oh, it's Goodwood Festival of Speed this weekend. So, back to it. Classic bikes, easier to service. You can do the majority of stuff yourself at cost. So, for example, this GS and my other R100, they cost me for a full service, just the parts and labour, takes me about an hour. The parts from Motorworks are approximately £130 including all the wets. So the R100 TIC is a the R100 TIC has final drive, gearbox and engine, and the GS doesn't have the drive shaft and that's the final drive, and the reason being is it's a sealed unit from factory. Don't know how that kind of works, I've not really looked into it, but nevertheless it's quite interesting. So this one's actually quicker. Now my process for doing this is basically to strip it all down, tank off the whole shebang, and the reason I entertain that is because it helps just keep an eye on wiring anywhere. Now I have had it before with old bikes where you get to the point where just under the tank where the main wiring loom passes through, we're going right here, where the main tank where the main tank goes through, you have there's a lot of wear going on, because the main cables, certainly for all of the engine parts, congregate here, they go through here, and it doesn't matter what you do to protect it, there's always going to be some kind of friction going on. So I utilise, this tank comes off really easily, I utilise that service time basically to check all the wiring loom. Oh, a little bit of rain coming on. Grease all the bits that need greasing, clean all the inside, give it a good spray with ACF or WD-40 or some kind of silicone, just to ensure that everything is lubed. Give it a good polish, and obviously replace any bits that need replacing. Now the parts on this you can still get OEM parts, and they're not that more expensive than aftermarket. So as a rule on classic bikes I stick with the OEMs if they're available. For example, on this, the plug, the sump plug is like £5 from Motorworks with the washer. Although you shouldn't need to replace the sump plug on a service, every couple of services, every couple of years I do just replace it, just because it makes sense to do that. Yeah, so as a rule they don't depreciate as much, for obvious reasons, as other bikes. The focus though, if you're buying a classic bike, is to buy right the first time and hold out for the one that you want. I always wanted a classic GS, ideally the Dakar GS80, however they are just a little steep to be using on an everyday bike, so I went with the Bumblebee. And prior to that obviously was my R100 TIC, which was a former police bike. So they don't depreciate as much if you buy right, easy to service, parts are still accessible. There is an element of the nostalgia associated with these bikes. They are bloody good fun to ride. The power is usable. What I mean by this is probably, I don't know, at the moment 50 horsepower at best. Looks like it's driving backwards, that thing. Oh come on, stop raining. I even brought my waterproofs. They're in the panniers in this. I thought, well, we'll get up there, and if it rains, because no rain was expected, then it'd be easy for me just to throw them on. This is a spot of luck, to be honest, because this road is relatively twisty. It's a good road when it's dry, but usually there's a lot of road debris, mud and alike, oil, grease and potholes. So keeping it, what's that, 25-30 miles an hour on this road is actually pretty good. So on this helmet I've used the rain stuff, whatever they call that. It doesn't work. Either that or I've applied it incorrectly. The other advantage of classic bikes, lower insurance. So in comparison, my HP4 I think is £180 a year, 187 fully comp. I think with about 10,000 miles a year, although it barely does 500. And this is around about £60 a year, fully comp. With about 18,000 miles a year. So running costs as a rule are a lot cheaper. Now, miles per gallon, I can't say that this is particularly great. At a guesstimate, I'm going to go mid-30s. Now in comparison to some newer bikes, I know they're reaching 40s and perhaps even early 50s, which is quite close to that thing with no great benefit. So would I recommend a classic bike as a daily bike? Well, I think it depends. It depends on what your flavour is. You know, half of the gadgets that you have on these modern bikes, especially the GS, you know, I'm not sure you use probably 90% of it, if I'm honest. Let's see, flashing out. What do you reckon? Speed camera? Yeah. Yeah, so 90% of the majority of the stuff that we have on these bikes we don't use. So if you're someone that really enjoys, you know, the tech associated with these bikes, then obviously something like this is not going to be your flavour. For me, as I said, I like keeping it simple and usable. Now with that being said, obviously I've got some modern bikes, and just to reinforce the comment I made about using all of the tools, I think not only do I use less than 30% of the HP4's power, but I probably use less than 30% of the HP4's. That's the kind of shit that I'm talking about on these roads. Less than 30% of actually the Gucci bits on it, and the reason being is, for me, they don't serve a great purpose, being completely honest. So that stuff's thrown off shit like that. Now if you go through that on your bike on a corner, you're just not, you're not going to benefit. Another thing that people don't realise on these big things, he does have the capacity or the ability to knock a bloody branch off. If you're sat too close to it and you go over that branch like that, I don't know if you caught that on the camera, you hit a branch even at 30 and you're not ready to deal with it, you're coming off. And you're coming off and potentially going into that oncoming traffic, and there is nothing you can do about it. Even some of the best riders I've seen not deal with obstacles all that well. Let's not forget, obviously countryside, you do have livestock, horses, especially around here. And I have been guilty of it myself before, going around a corner at Nationals, only to be confronted by some four-legged beasts. Hitchhiker. Off you go. So yeah, that's it. Anything else to report on classic bikes? It's nice. Less of a depreciating asset, easier to work on, has the ability to utilise the majority of the bits contained within. With certain manufacturers, there is still, or there are still OEM parts. Working on yourself depending on your capacity and capability, and what else? So one thing that I do see the benefit of, oh, what's going on here? Or it's probably a bit of erosion. I do see the benefit of, I certainly would see the benefit of, is hill start. I'd quite like hill start, or certainly I would like, if I was to buy another bike or a modern bike, the hill start. Yeah, so that's it. Waffling now. Benefit classic bikes, easy service, less depreciation if you buy right the first time. Nostalgic feeling, bloody good fun, usable power, affordability. I think that's probably it. So that's it from me. Have a good day.